And I'm Charles Gibson, and coming up in our first hour on this Friday, December 20th. How's business this holiday season? We'll ask some people who watch shoppers for a living.
When coming home means becoming homeless, a Desert Storm veteran speaks out.
And the movie behind the controversy, we'll look at Oliver Stone's JFK. Spencer?
Charlie, a word of caution to Midwest motorists. With temperatures just below freezing, light rain is causing slippery and dangerous road conditions in parts of Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, and Minnesota.
Winter's not kidding around anymore.
Not at all.
Definitely here.
Okay, you got the weekend to finish up. You got to finish the cookies this weekend. You got to get the tree up. You got to get it decorated. You got to get all the... Oh, boy. So much to do and so little time to do it.
It's a relaxing time of year, huh? All right, we mentioned the film JFK, and it is getting so much press these days that we wanted to examine the issues ourselves, and we will have a review from Joel Siegel, and then we will hear from former President Gerald Ford, who served on the government commission that looked into the John Kennedy assassination. And Mr. Ford is among those who say that the film is severely flawed and inaccurate history.
And I was talking a moment ago about all the pressures that seem to build up right before Christmas, but we will take it sort of easy on these last few days coming up to the Christmas season. Always one of the nice things on this program, one of the parts that I most enjoy, the music of Christmas. And we'll begin today starting with a little help from the Vienna Choir Boys. They're going to be here to sing The Little Drummer Boy, a beautiful version of it. But right now, let's go to the news. And leading the news at this hour, the balance of power in the Soviet Union tilts further away from Mikhail Gorbachev. And Morton Dean, who's filling in for Mike Schneider, has that story of the news of the day. Mort?
Right, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. There's a new landlord at the Kremlin this morning, an absentee landlord for now. Boris Yeltsin, the Russian president, is on a diplomatic tour of Italy, but while he's away, he's declared himself in charge of key ministries in the Soviet Union, leaving Mikhail Gorbachev his office and little else. ABC's Mike Lee has more from Moscow.
At the Foreign Ministry building, employees who used to deal with the entire world on behalf of the Soviet Union were this morning working for the Russian government only. The Foreign Ministry is the latest Russian trophy. Boris Yeltsin has issued a series of decrees ordering the takeover by Russia of virtually all of the remaining buildings and agencies of the fading Soviet government. Troops of the Soviet Interior Ministry now report to Russian leaders, largely because they are now paid by Russia. The KGB, once the home of the most fearsome spy agency in the world, has suddenly been thrown into uncertainty. Many agents will work for Russia. Some could report to the new Commonwealth, and other spies may have to become taxi drivers or factory workers. At the Kremlin, even the telephone system has reportedly been switched over to Russian control. Mikhail Gorbachev still has his name on the door, but he's looking and sounding like a man without an office. Yesterday, he acknowledged he no longer has any practical power, yet Gorbachev has still not resigned. He's urging leaders of the republics to abide by democratic procedures in setting up the new Commonwealth. On the streets of Moscow today, many people said, in effect, that Boris Yeltsin's takeover decrees make him look like an old-style dictator. This woman said, what was criticized about the old regime, all the mistakes, are being repeated. This woman said what we fought for was law, and now there are no laws. In Alma-Ata, the capital of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Commonwealth leaders will meet tomorrow to discuss a new treaty. Boris Yeltsin will have a few questions to answer, like what gives Russia the right to take over the former Soviet Union. Today, as a footnote to history, is the 69th anniversary of the founding of the Soviet Union, which is now disappearing. Mort?
Mike, how long do you think the leaders of the other republics will put up with Mr. Yeltsin?
Almost as soon as they sit down tomorrow in Alma-Ata, they're going to be asking Yeltsin questions like, look, you've taken over the foreign ministry, you're trying to get the seat in the Security Council, what's going on? I thought we had a Commonwealth. I thought we had something to bargain about. We're also hearing that some people may be planning anti-Yeltsin demonstrations over the next few days here in Moscow. So the pressure is beginning to build against Yeltsin in reaction to some of the decrees he's now issuing.
Mike Lee reporting from Moscow this morning. Mr. Yeltsin will be meeting with the Pope later today. And another sign of the changing world order, NATO will welcome its old adversaries today. Foreign ministers from the former Warsaw Pact nations joining NATO members for the first talks about a new cooperation council. The former communist countries have not been granted NATO membership, but Secretary of State Baker says the new alliance between East and West has a big role to play.
Is an indication that this alliance can serve as something more than just a military alliance. It can serve as a significant and important political alliance as well.
Boris Yeltsin sent word to today's meetings that he hopes Russia will eventually gain full membership in the NATO alliance. The last big legal tangle in the William Kennedy Smith rape case has been resolved. A Florida grand jury has refused to indict William Barry for obstruction of justice. Palm Beach police had claimed that Barry misled them when they visited the Kennedy compound the morning after the alleged incident. Barry told them no one from the family was at home. The woman who made the accusation was interviewed last night by ABC's Diane Sawyer.
When then did you make the decision in your own mind that you were going to say your name and let your face be shown?
It was shortly after one of the defense attorneys was going on national TV telling everybody that, she's mentally disturbed. I'm not. Each and every day at noon, each and every day from 5 to 7, and in each and every newspaper, I had to see the face of the man who raped me. That part.
But you know what the defense said. They said that there's Willie Smith feeling the scorch of publicity. His name is out there in public. And they said, of course, that you were hiding behind your anonymity.
He was not raped. I was.
And yet the jury acquitted.
Which doesn't mean I'm not a victim of rape.
But it means that his name has been out there all of this time, attached to an accusation of rape. And now, he would argue to you, probably he can't get his name back either.
If that man is suffering any repercussions from the past 9 months, he should, in my mind. I don't mean to be vindictive. I'm still terribly frightened of him. Certainly there are some people who don't believe me, that's a given. And there are an awful lot of people who do believe me. The police believe me. The prosecutor believe me. The state attorney believe me. There are millions of people out there who believe me. I believe me.
On primetime, Patricia Bowman also said she has finished telling her story, and now she wants to concentrate on counseling rape victims. In political news, New York Governor Mario Cuomo is expected to announce today whether he'll be a candidate for the Democratic nomination for president. The deadline for entering the New Hampshire presidential primary is 5 o'clock, and Cuomo said yesterday he won't let that deadline pass without a decision. Meanwhile, 5 of the 6 announced Democratic candidates were in New Hampshire yesterday for a conference on health care. They all agreed reforms are needed, but there was no agreement on how to do it. President Bush held a strategy meeting yesterday with a group of business leaders. The executives are going with him on a trade mission to Asia at the end of the month. The president had canceled the Asian trip last month because he said he wanted to pay more attention to the U.S. economy. But the president now says opening up trade overseas is a key to creating jobs at home. Even before the president makes his way to Japan, some American goods have already made it there. Yesterday was opening day for Japan's first Toys R Us store, and hundreds of Japanese consumers took in the festivities, watched the ribbon cutting, and roamed the aisles. Those aisles are not necessarily filled with American products, though. 40% of the store's goods are made outside the U.S. And that's the news, and now we continue with Mornings R Us. Charlie and Spencer.
All right, thanks very much. More to 8 minutes after the hour. Spencer here with a national weather forecast, which today features
some icy rain, but milder weather than yesterday. It's getting milder here in the Northeast. In fact, Joan should be here. She'd appreciate that since she hates the cold. It's getting milder in the east. But
days left till Christmas. A lot of retailers are as worried about what is left on your shopping list as you are, and that's because nearly a third of the retail industry's sales usually come during the Christmas season. But because of the recession, this shopping season is beginning to look a lot like a disaster. We took an informal poll of shoppers in Los Angeles, where it seems like nearly everyone is buying less.
Definitely less. The state of the economy is such that even with the prices that are coming down in the stores, I'm finding that it's kind of difficult for me to make ends meet.
There's not as much money out anymore, and I'm spending less because I'm making less.
Well, I'm probably buying a lot more small things and maybe giving people a few more gifts, but smaller items.
Most definitely. There's just not enough cash flow to go out and buy what you normally buy, so you have to just cut back.
Mostly practical, but a little of the Nintendo's falling in there, so that might be considered high-tech, but very practical, useful things.
I'm buying about the same. Just Giving to the people I absolutely have to give to.
Practical things for the kids. You know, can't look out for the Nintendos or anything like that, not this year.
Nothing real high price. We never do that at Christmas time anyway. We try to keep the real meaning of Christmas in instead of making it commercial.
And joining us now are two people who track consumer preferences and retail trends. Mona Doyle is president of Consumer Network, Inc., a consumer and market research organization, and Bruce Missett is the senior retail analyst with the brokerage firm of Morgan Stanley. He joins us from Hartford, Connecticut at our affiliate, WTNH. And good morning to both of you. Bruce, I'll start out with you. Is this going to turn out to be the worst holiday season the retailers have seen in a long, long time?
Well, it'll have a lot to do with how long your memory is, but I would suspect for most people, yes, this is going to be the worst Christmas season we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, some people say in maybe a quarter of a century, at least 22, 23 years.
I've been tracking retail sales since 1968. It's the most difficult season I've seen, and it really has come upon us in a rather grinding manner. It has not been good all year, and where there was a lot of expectation for a pickup as we got to the end of the year, because last year was pretty bad too. And sadly, it wasn't that great in 1989 when you had a lot of retailers going into bankruptcy.
So it's not only lack of money, but I guess lack of confidence for the coming year as well.
Well, the two things that drive sales are consumers' income and consumers' confidence.
Yeah.
And the income is obviously not there, and I think we're all getting tired of reading about layoffs in the paper.
Mona, other than the fact that people are buying less, what else strikes you about their buying patterns this year?
They're doing more thinking before they're buying. They in many cases actually feel guilty about buying. They're wanting to make sure they have a lot of information before they buy. And they think, and I think so too, that retailers are missing the boat. There's an opportunity to provide a lot more information so consumers know they're making intellectual or value-based decisions rather than emotional decisions, which traditionally we've made at Christmas, whatever seems great.
Now, then do I hear you saying that they're not buying the luxury or frivolous items and maybe buying more, I don't know, practical or meaningful items?
Definitely. There's a trading down. There's an anti-materialism. There's an anti-glitz. There's an anti-hype, a pulling back from hype. The notion that to live a simpler life is better, to buy what you really need. So this question of, do I need this, or do people that I'm buying this for really need this? Yes, that's definitely trading down.
So then does that translate, Bruce, into that stores that specialize in those things might be maybe even doing better, and then which stores are hurting the most?
The stores that are doing the best are probably all those value-oriented stores, the discount stores, the wholesale clubs. The companies like Gap stores that sell what are considered value apparel. But I also think you have to appreciate all of this is on the margin. This is an enormous amount of dollars flowing through the economy at Christmas time. And the changes are in the last 5 and 10% of what happens. If this is a bad Christmas, it means it's down 2 or 3%. If it's a good Christmas, it's up 5. That's not an enormous change in the aggregate psychology of consumers. But on the margin, this is a very tough season, and it's the glitzier, if you want to call it, but let's call them department stores that are having the tougher time. There's also a lot of trouble with traffic in shopping centers. People are going more into discount stores.
Well, what if it's the first what if? And what if it is as bad as some are predicting? Are we going to see a lot more bankruptcies like we did, 3 years ago?
If there's a difference this year, no one is surprised by the soft Christmas, by the weakness in Christmas. If you're going into a lot of stores, you're going to find surprisingly spring merchandise. There's been a great deal of caution on the part of retailers in terms of how much goods they put in their stores.
So maybe they planned ahead a little bit. One thing, though, that hasn't seemed to cut back, Mona, is that we'll save on adults, but when it comes to kids, we still spend.
Well,
toys.
Anything that fosters family values. There's a spirit of disintegration, I think. There's this concern about everything that's good, going well, and of protecting the children from what's going on out there.
So once again, an anti-excess of the 80s,
that's
more
right,
family-oriented.
for adults. But anything for the family, anything that is enhancing the quality of family life, anyone who's really straight, retailers have an opportunity to be straight with consumers. They don't want to be perceived as their games are being played with them.
Yeah.
They're
So
really
don't miss the boat.
hype.
All right, Mona, Bruce, thank you both very much. Again, 5 days left until Christmas. Coming up, Desert Storm vets who now do battle with homelessness when Good Morning America continues. The firestorm over the new film JFK in our next half hour.
This may be Oswald.
And it's coming up now at 19 minutes after the hour. A year ago at this time, we were a nation on the brink of war with Iraq. And the men and women of the military were getting all kinds of support, even from strangers, cards, letters, packages from people who just wanted to say thanks. But today the world is a different place, and for some vets it's a distinctly unfriendly place. Some of the nation's homeless are veterans of Operation Desert Storm. Joining us this morning from Boston to tell us more about the issue is Ken Smith, Executive Director of the New England Shelter for Homeless Veterans. And with us here in New York, Specialist Osborne McFadden. He was a National Guardsman attached to the 82nd Airborne in Saudi Arabia. Ken, let me start with you. It's frustrating when you try to get numbers on the homeless because obviously they're so difficult to count. But is there an estimate of the numbers of homeless Desert Storm vets?
Well, Charlie, nationally, we guesstimate that there are between 150 and 200,000 homeless veterans, with about 1,500 to 2,000 of them being veterans of Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
You're an advocate for the homeless. Can you tell me that you're not overestimating? Do you have a pretty good sense of those numbers?
We have a very good sense of those numbers. I would think that that's an underestimation as opposed to an overestimation. Here in Boston and nationally, a third of all the homeless are veterans. And just in the city of Boston, we're looking at about 1,500 homeless veterans. So across this country, the estimate of 150 to 200,000, I believe, is pretty much on target.
You're giving me mass numbers. Can you be sure of the numbers of Desert Storm?
Well, I'm seeing here in Boston about 1% of the veterans that come through our door are Desert Storm vets. So I'm utilizing that number as an across-the-board figure nationally. So if 1% or 1.5% of the guys that I'm seeing here, upwards of a couple of dozen guys in the last 3 or 4 months, then I'm assuming that those same numbers are going across the nation. In talking to advocates in other states across this country, they are also seeing vets of Operation Desert Storm.
Osborne, where were you living a year ago today?
I was living in an apartment in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
You weren't over in Saudi Arabia by December of 1990?
I got to Saudi Arabia, I think it was, I went in May of 90.
May of 90?
May of 90. Before that, I was living in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to track down the time that you were in Saudi Arabia. You got there in May of 90?
May of 90. I was with SHIELD before it turned into Storm. I was there a total of almost 9 months.
Okay. And where are you living now?
Right now, I'm living at the Borden Avenue Salvation Army Veterans Residence.
When you came back, there was no job?
There was no job. I was working beforehand, before I left, with an asbestos company. And the job is somewhat like construction work. When I left, there was a job, but by the time I got back, the job was through.
When you talk to prospective employers now, I presume you go out looking for jobs. When you say you were in Desert Storm, what do they say to you?
No, they comments, oh, that was nice and great and so forth, but then they take your resume or whatever, or an application, and put it in the pile with everybody else. There's no special, how you say, incentive or anything else.
When they say, don't call us, we'll call you, what do you say back to them?
It's just not too much you can say except, okay, well, thank you. You know, you keep your best composure and keep your fingers crossed.
The shelter that you live in, are there other Desert Storm veterans there?
I think it's about 2 or 3 others. There was a few more of them. Some have came and gone already, but I think it's about 2 of them right about now. They just recently came in.
Common story, Ken?
Well, I think it's a pretty common story. I think that the people of this country have got to understand that a third of the homeless in this nation are American veterans, and that should be unconscionable. I'm embarrassed and ashamed that this Desert Storm veteran even had to come onto your show this morning to spread the word about this terrible problem.
Ken, I appreciate it. Osborne, good luck to you. Hope you're out of the shelter soon. Hope you find a job soon.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.